Huna says in the philosophy that there are no limits. Now, if we extrapolate that, we come to the idea that we're all connected. Not just us as human beings, but everything. Now, if you are all connected and you use your abilities of awareness, you can be aware of things that you're capable of being aware of, but perhaps never really paid much attention to. Now, what happens with a lot of healers, they don't have to be using Huna. This is something a lot of healers find or develop on their own, of course, in lots of cultures around the world. Huna gives you a way to focus it and practice it, which is useful. But it's just a question of awareness. We are receiving all kinds of input from our environment, most of which due to childhood training, educational training, social beliefs and ideas, values, people don't use. And yet it's still there. I've trained a lot of people in, let's say, a lot of things, in healing and in psychic abilities, because every human being is capable. But you have to be willing to change points of view, to pay attention to things you didn't pay attention to before. I'll give you one example. Now, this is not from Huna, but it has to do with our general awareness. There is an industry in the United States, it's the perfume industry. And there are special schools where the people go who develop the new perfumes. In order to develop the new perfumes, they have to develop a sense that most of us barely use at all, and that's the sense of smell. So they go to a special school where they're trained to do this. And that these aren't people who are sought out because they have this superhuman ability that's been noticed. These are people that just like to smell. And when they get interested in this perfume concept of learning all the different smells and how to blend them into different recipes, they have to be able to smell the perfume and know everything that's in it. They have to learn how to distinguish 3,000 different smells in order to graduate. 3,000. Right? Which means they're smelling stuff we're not aware of at all. Let's look at some other things. In ancient Hawaii, there was an extreme awareness of winds that today, from our culture, we would think was almost magical, the way somebody would be able to tell what kind of wind and where it was blowing and what it was going to do and all of that. There were hundreds of names for winds because it was important to them and they learned about it, especially the fishermen and the navigators and so forth. And yet, if an ancient Hawaiian were brought into today's society and taken to a department store, to the lipstick counter, with hundreds of different colors, the ancient Hawaiian would only see 4 or 5. Would not be able to distinguish the vast range of colors, because color is so important in our society. The Hawaiian would not be aware of those differences, because those senses would not have been developed. You see what I'm saying? There are senses of touch that we have, and this is primarily what the healers use. A very subtle touch. I can teach people how to feel color just by putting their hands over a color. It's not hard to do. Most people never try it, never think it, are even aware that it can be done. And yet we're capable of that. So these people who get interested in healing become aware more and more of feedback that they're getting from other people, from their environment, from themselves. Another way to look at it is like a master mechanic. Now you can listen to the same engine that a master mechanic is listening to. He can tell you how it's working, when it's likely to break down, what parts aren't quite in sync or in tune, and all you're hearing is an engine. See, it's that kind of thing. It's a development of a specialized awareness. And because it's a feeling awareness on the part of the healers, and often even on the part of the mechanic, that's a sense that so many of us are not trained in at all, And when we try to describe it, we call it intuitive or heart-based, or to try and get some word that makes sense in terms of feeling.